Hey design friends, this is Editor-in-Chief Cindy Allen here, aka Cindy with a C. But today, I want you to give me a B. Give me an I. Give me a G. Oh yes, our big April issue is all about the next big ideas, spanning every segment from commercial, residential, hospitality, health and wellness, and more. Our design giants, like Lois Goodall from CBT, agrees. She says, new ideas are flourishing to address the seismic shift in our culture. We're drawing on cross-disciplinary design to reimagine solutions for our clients. Like workplace is informing multifamily residential, hospitality is influencing the workplace, and biophilic design is benefiting all. So, now let's talk about all those big ideas. For safety, how about touchless elevator buttons that look like magic but are kinetic, and face masks that are all about protection and celebration? For climate change, smarter greenhouses are integrating technology to simplify crop planting. And our mental health mega matters with the Ohana Center for Health by NBBJ, which offers inpatient, outpatient, and community care for kids. All in all, our big ideas feature 11 countries. Wowza. We also talk top kitchen and bath trends and feature a special carpet, flooring, tile, and stone section that will leave you, well, floored. The April issue tells us everything you need to know. Right now, the world needs innovation to get us to the other side. And this idea-packed issue is one more tool that will move us ahead. It's all here, and you should be too. See ya!
Hello, I'm Helene Oberman, Managing Director of Interior Design Magazine, and I'd like to welcome you to Product Live. This is our series that delves into the products and trends, grabbing the industry, and in real time, looking at the minds behind the design. So being a pioneer is nothing new for Nassimi. This is a company that began its journey in Persia, garnering experience in the textile trade in Germany before laying down roots right here in New York City. Breaking the mold and creating the unexpected while keeping the performance needs of the design community always in mind is at the core of this brand. And through technology and innovation, they are taking enormous strides to revolutionize the textile industry. With me today to discuss how they are leading as a market innovator is Yvonne Nassimi, Executive Vice President of Nassimi. Welcome, Yvonne. It's nice to have you today.
Thank you, Helene. It's great to be on.
So diving right in. So we are here today to really educate the design community about the Nassimi brand, which has had a long presence in the world of textiles since the 1950s. So Yvonne, how did the company actually come to be?
The long version or the short version? I guess we'll go with the long.
I think we have to go to the short version today.
Just in a nutshell, we're a family business. I'm the third generation in this business, and like you mentioned, our family originally came from Persia, but the business was really established in Europe in the early 1950s, and there we became a global textile trading house of all types of high quality European fabrics that were exported to over 70 countries or 80 countries in the world. That included upholstery fabrics, decorative fabrics, apparel fabrics, as well as vinyls. In the late 70s, early 80s, one of the family members, Edward Nassimi, decided to move to New York and start a business here, and sort of an offshoot off of the European business, in which they would import vinyl fabrics and distribute them in the United States.
So you would really say the face of Nassimi that we really know, here and today was launched when the company first really laid down roots in New York City in 1978. And you were distributing, not manufacturing, upholstery vinyl at that time?
Yeah, at the time we were distributing upholstery vinyls and other specialty vinyls also. But over time, we've become increasingly focused on the upholstery market, and specifically on the commercial upholstery market, contract, healthcare, hospitality, all of those.
So I really want to dive in though. Let's just speak a little bit about the brand itself. So obviously you have this great history, a long-standing history of the textile market, but it's really about the ethos of who you are as a brand. And I know that you have really two key philosophies that really help push the business forward, and thinking about a company that really established itself in 1978 for what you're doing. You're really looking at, first off, the idea of quality. And I know that you find it really important not to introduce anything into the market until it's absolutely perfect and right for the needs of what the design community needs.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's all very true. I would say that it's quality is sort of a given here, but it goes a little bit further than that. We are excited about design and development and just pushing the quality envelope a little bit and making products better. We were the first company to introduce a faux leather in the market, a true faux leather. Before then, all vinyls were vinyl. They were plasticky, they were shiny, they were stiff, and you used them because you had to, not because you wanted to. And we always felt that that's not good enough. We wanted to bring out products that people actually want to use and get excited about, and that we get excited about. So we've always looked towards new technologies and new manufacturing processes and things like that to make the quality, but also the design and the aesthetics of our products better, and the comfort that's associated with it. And in the process, we've been lucky. We've been able to do that a few times, and we did that in the faux leather world. And I think many will agree that we kind of revolutionized that market as a whole. Just an anecdote: in the early days when we brought out some of these products, some of the buyers were a little confused. They didn't know where to put it. They didn't know whether to put it in their leather binder or with their vinyls or their fabrics, because it was such a new product. It was they'd never seen something like it. That very much became an ethos of the company, and we get, quite frankly, we just get very excited about it. We get excited about product development and innovation, bringing something new and meaningful to the market. The other big part of what we do is we don't work directly with the end user, with the designers and architects, and so on. Our business is focused around the textile distributors as well as furniture manufacturers, and we really don't view them as customers but as partners, and that together we work together to bring out something that is of meaning and purpose, and makes their product offering better, and makes the selection process easier in the end.
So it's interesting. So obviously thinking about product innovation, partnerships, maybe it's collaboration with who you're considering your clients. But I want to go back to what you were saying before, but that this idea of innovation and disruption of the textile industry really is sort of in the DNA of who you are as a brand. And certainly that started in the 90s when you did launch what can be considered one of the first true faux leathers in the market, but you're continuing that legacy today. And you actually are just introducing onto the market a new product called Supreme. And given the sort of needs of the design community in this sort of post-pandemic time, really, what are some of the key features that one can find in this really brand new revolutionizing product?
Okay. So what led us from faux leather to Supreme is a little bit of a story of multiple innovations in and of itself. So like I mentioned, we did, we were very strong in faux leather. We did the same thing in polyurethane, and we brought out, which is a new chemistry, a new technology again, and did some things there in polyurethane, where we brought out products that are highly cleanable, they're ink resistant, indigo denim dye resistant, and just very, very durable also. Polyurethanes can have a reputation that they don't hold up so well. From there, we decided, let's get into the textile business. And we started, we brought some people in-house that had a lot of experience in textiles and woven textiles. And we just felt we wanted to make that a little bit easier also. And we developed a line of textiles where they're headache-free. They're engineered and designed to be soft and supple and beautiful, and textiles that you would want to have, but at the same time also that they would wear well and perform well. And they meet 100,000 double rubs abrasion resistance, and they don't pill and they don't tear, and they're stain resistant, and they're easy because you don't have to worry about it. You don't have to send them out to be finished because you want them to do a certain thing. At the same time, there were some innovations happening in silicone upholstery, and which we got involved in also, which is it's a brand new resin category. And silicone has benefits that it's also very cleanable, it's environmentally friendly, it's an abundant resource, and it has a lot of inherent properties like antibacterial and antimicrobial resistance or flame retardancy that you can achieve without any added chemistry. So it's also a very environmentally safe and healthy product. So working in these different fields and learning a little bit about these different things and in some ways becoming experts of them, you always look for ways to push the envelope a little bit and maybe do something that nobody's ever done before. If you're lucky, you can get there. And we worked with a lot of our supply partners and our manufacturers in bringing some of these technologies together and pooling some of these technologies, and also drawing on some of their experience in areas that are outside of the upholstery world. We work with manufacturers that also make products for outerwear, like specialty outerwear, or for athletic wear, or things like that. And there's some technology being utilized in those markets. And so we worked for several years with them and tinkered and went back to the drawing board. And we came out with this product, or this product platform, which we call Supreme, which is really a culmination of all of those different things together. It utilizes a silicone in the top coat, in the surface, that gives it incredible stain resistance, where liquids just beat up on roll off of it. At the core of it is a high performance textile that is durable, it's abrasion resistant, it's pilling resistant. Supreme is, in a way, it's really a composite product with 3 layers. It starts with a woven fabric, a high performance, well-designed, soft and supple fabric that goes through a silicone bath. And the silicone immerses itself into the fiber, into the fabric, and becomes one with the fabric and creates an invisible layer of protection that makes it stain resistant, and liquids roll off of it. It's also an environmentally friendly solution. Once that's done, it gets bonded with a performance polyurethane layer, and the performance polyurethane makes the material a complete liquid barrier. Nothing will penetrate through that material. No liquids will go through it. Not if you let it sit on for a day, a month, they won't penetrate. But even more, it's, and this is something that's near and dear to us also, it's an environmentally friendly product. We don't use any PFCs in it, or PFOAs, or any fluorocarbons. So we always try to analyze the, what's inside the products and see, what can we do better? What can we do differently without sacrificing any of the performance, but maybe have a healthier and better option.
Basically, the introduction of Supreme was taking sort of these years of working with all these different sort of specialty materials to be able, and of certainly your partners, to come up with something that is durable, has high performance, the cleanability that one needs. But also, I know what's really important for Nassimi, and you just touched on, is the fact that it actually is sort of has you have a concern about the environmental impact of your products, and Supreme really holds true to that, correct?
So as a company, we always look at ways of making our products better. And we talked about the, improving the performance of the products. We talked about the aesthetics and how important those are to us. But one other area that we take very seriously, and it's very near and dear to us, is making the products better environmentally and be more environmentally responsible. And when it comes to our faux leathers, we were the first company to remove all phthalates from our faux leathers. We've removed all flame retardant chemicals or biocides from all of our products. And when it comes to Supreme specifically, we achieve this incredible stain resistance without the use of any fluorocarbons or PFCs or PFOAs, which are frowned upon. And instead, we use the silicone layer, which gives it the protection. So that makes the product Prop 65 compliant and healthy hospitals compliant.
So certainly you're thinking about both the health and well-being of the environment, but also for the inhabitants within a space as they're utilizing it and where your products are used.
Very much so. I mean, I have 3 children, and I'm happy to use a lot of our own fabrics in my own home. My own furniture is upholstered with them, and it's something that's on our mind. In wanting to bring great products to the market.
But I'm curious, as you're developing something like Supreme, did you find that you had to adapt anything sort of given the current market?
It's a great question. What we found actually is some great timing. There are some things about this product which we thought were great value added benefits that became that much more meaningful in this climate. Supreme fabrics are all bleach cleanable, for example, or they're disinfectable. And we've tried and tested many different commercial cleaners and disinfectants, and where that was just a niche performance benefit before, it's become mainstream now, where people want to they want to feel comfortable and safe in their environments, and they're cleaning their upholstery much more frequently in an office or in a hotel lobby or in restaurants. It's happening all across the board. And these are bleach cleanable fabrics with a bleach solution and won't damage or discolor the material. Or the fact that there's a liquid barrier, it just means that much more now, because it just means that there's more protection on your upholstery, and that's something that people maybe don't think about. What goes on inside the furniture. The surface you can always clean and wipe off and so on, but if liquids penetrate inside the furniture, and over time, mold, mildew, bacteria, and so on, you don't want to know what goes on.
Well, this is exactly where I want to jump in, because speaking about liquids and what it does on the surface of this material actually is part of how you came up with, was the inspiration for the fabric and for the name of it, correct?
Mm-hmm. That's right. So Supreme, it's really a combination of 2 words. Supple, because the material is just so luxurious and soft and supple, and something that when you hold it in your hands, you really, you just want to play around with it. It feels so nice. And preen, and preen, like ducks or other aquatic birds do, where they excrete oils across their feathers that makes liquids or water just roll right off of them and cleans them, in effect. It's a combination of those 2 things, and the logo or the icon of the Supreme brand is also a duck for that reason. And we have little ducklings that we made out of our material that everybody loves. My kids still think it's Supreme.
Yeah.
But
that's something entirely different. Yeah. And well, obviously it's important to reiterate that that the product is not only really about the performance, correct? It really is focused on the design and how it looks, and as really more about how it feels, right? Mm-hmm. It doesn't have that sort of texture and hand of what one would expect from a performance textile, but something that is actually soft and supple, like you said.
Mhm. Yeah, and that's exactly what we want to achieve. I mean, you always have this notion, the same way that the vinyl faux leather difference, and you always have this notion that a performance fabric is going to be a little bit stiff, it's going to be a little bit boardy, and it's something that you have to use because you need the performance in certain environments, but not necessarily something you get excited about. And again, we like to be proud about the products that we come to market with, and proud about how they look and feel. And we're just really excited about the Supreme fabrics, and there are a variety of textures and lots of different colors, but more than anything, they just look and feel great. And you had asked earlier about another sort of sign of the times, and we do some focus groups informally and ask designers and our customers, and what is it that you're looking for? What do you need? And the two things that we keep hearing about, they're very different. One of them is just increased performance and cleanability, and all of a sudden, bleach cleanability has become a thing, or disinfectability really has become a thing, and that's one group. But the other one goes much more towards warmth and comfort, and these are difficult and troubling times for many people, and people are seeking comfort from other places and familiarity. And again, this is just fortuitous that we were able to combine both of these things into one product and offer both of them. So we got, we'd like to say that we knew it all, but we didn't.
I mean, I think there's something interesting to say about that. I've been hearing a lot in my conversations with the design community about this idea of comfort and safety and sanctuary. And obviously that, it comes in a lot of different forms. So obviously we need to address all the senses. And for you, I know with this one, it's really about like the hand and the touch and the softness, and really how that can really help, especially in a commercial space where you don't always get that.
That's very true. I mean, I think it's been going on probably for a few years. We want our homes to look more like hotels, and we want more hotels or restaurants or offices even, or healthcare spaces to look more like residential spaces that are, where people feel more comfortable. And like you said, these are sanctuaries, and the notion of touch is, I think, paramount there.
So I know that it's like run out of time, and I know there's a lot more to say about Supreme, but I think, Yvonne, I really appreciate this sort of introduction to the brand for those designers out there that may not already be familiar with the products that you're offering, and certainly about the introduction of Supreme and really how it really fits a solution that is needed and necessary right now out in the market. And certainly for our design community out there, please check out the Nassimi website to learn more about Supreme. Thank you, Yvonne.
Thank you, Helene. This was great.
Whether it's film or art, you get something that you connect to in an emotional response. And I think that for me is, just tapping into the human experience. And that's the ultimate beauty for me.
I'm not just an artist who makes stuff I want to make. I'm an artist who loves to bring people together, and the interconnectivity is part of the work.
Hey everyone, this is Cindy Allen, Editor-in-Chief of Interior Design, welcoming everyone to a very special town hall with our good friends at the New York School of Interior Design. Now we know them as NYSID. And the topic today, and this is a really good one, 5 things I wish I knew before I started a career. We need to have this talk, by the way, everyone, because we're living in this crazy Instagram-focused culture of perfection, perfect interiors, perfect everything. And you rarely see the painstaking process that goes into making a project truly special. And I know, everybody, we love a great before and after, but what about all those steps in here, in between? All the subtleties, the details, and the problem solving that a good interior designer and architect learned from years of experience. Well, today you're in luck because we're pulling back the curtain with 2 of the industry's top talents. I am joined by the one and only Alexa Hampton, owner and president of Mark Hampton, and Andrew Oyen, principal of Ferguson and Shamamian Architects, for a candid chat about some of their best and worst moments and what they wish they'd known when they just got started. Hi guys, it's so nice to see you all.
Hi there, very nice to be here, thank you.
Alexa, how are you?
So happy to see you. I cannot tell you, both of you.
Well,
I know, we're gonna have a great time. Everyone out there, you're in for a treat. Now, as we get started, I just want everyone to know about NYSID. It's, by the way, it's up the street from where I live. Founded in 1916, New York School of Interior Design is a private nonprofit college focused exclusively on interior design. It's a beautiful school, offering certificate, undergrad, and grad programs for students at all stages of their career. And by the way, they've been consistently ranked as one of the top interior design programs of the United States. And they do both residential, commercial interior design with some specialties in sustainable design, lighting, and healthcare. They got healthcare interiors, they have it all, everybody. So as we get started, Alexa and Andrew, just a few questions about the profession. First of all, are you an interior designer or an architect?
Alexa?
Interior designer and board member at NYSID.
Yes.
So I've drunk the Kool-Aid. NYSID.
Love that. And Andrew?
And I'm an architect, although I got my start in interior design. I worked for 8 years with an interior designer, and I'm a big fan of NYSID.
There we go. We love that. So I guess the first question is, architecture is a licensed profession and
Yes.
interior design isn't. So with so many designers out there practicing without a degree, why would you choose to go to design school? Alexa, tell us about that.
That is precisely why I would go to design school. If, there are many things that one can do to distinguish oneself in one's profession. You can be amazing at it. You can also be wonderful to work with. You can be expert in various things. The way you get to some of those expertises, which are much less ephemeral than being fun to be with or, getting out there and getting your work seen. If you've got the chops and you've learned them and you're accredited, it does give a huge amount of credence to a profession that to some, feels very wishy-washy. I've been at dinners seated next to, a colleague of my husband's, and, I'm Mrs. Papa, you're you at the dinner. And they're like, so what do you do? And I tell them, and I just watch their eyes. I watch them die inside. Or I feel the pat on the head like, oh, you must shop all day. So, and for sure there are people out there who are incredibly talented. They just have God-given talent. But there's nothing wrong about expertise and knowledge and having an education. And I would totally support. I only hire from NYSID actually, for not on purpose. It's not a policy, but it happens to be the case.
It happens. It's what happens. And Andrew, so you're an architect, although you said you love interiors.
I do. And I think, I think I'm a firm believer in you don't start learning until you start working. However, an education provides a structure and a discipline within which it's a construct that I think having that background, when you do start working in the field and you find out these experiences are incredibly different, you refer back to the structure that you had in school, as well as some of the fundamental information you use as sort of your building blocks. So I think it's that discipline is really, really important. Yeah,
and I can say as, a magazine that honors the profession, there are very few talents out there that get in the pages of interior design that have not gone to school, because you can see the difference in the projects too. Like everything is different when you're a professional as opposed to not. So good start promoting NYSID, who we love and is supporting our industry in a big way. Now you guys are going to talk to those who are just getting started in their careers, and this is the stuff that you can't pay for this stuff. It's like 5 things. Oh my God, I wish I knew.
But feel free to pay.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so we're going to kind of go back and forth with some of your tips and some of your stories that go along with it. Alexa, I'm going to start with you.
Sure.
Your number one first tip was don't install unflattering lighting. Lighting gets a bad rap, right?
It's funny that I say that while I'm being blasted by natural light and I look like a ghost. But yeah, lighting is anything that is not obviously part of the visual senses. I mean, that is more than just the visual sense, right? It creates an ambiance, and it's something that people forget to contend with, and one cannot. And I love chandeliers and I love flush mounts, but I don't like living underneath that light. You know, it comes down, it's ghoulish, not my best look. And after all, it's all about vanity. But everybody will tell you that everything has to be on a dimmer. But in addition to that, if you speak to lighting designers, and there are many out there, and it's a rapidly changing business, so it's great to touch base with them whenever possible. The best kind of light comes from having many different sources in the same room. So in the room I'm in, I have downlights, I have sconces, I have lamps, I have picture lights, and I have like can up lights. So I've got it coming from all different directions, which softens one's appearance. And it's a great, easily forgotten aspect of design that should not be forgotten.
Right. And you know, isn't it so funny, because I think we all like love lighting, but just in terms of projects, it's the thing that gets sometimes pushed aside or put in at the end as opposed to the beginning. Andrew, in terms of architecture all the time, which it shouldn't.
Now, so Alexa, Leonard Lauder agrees with you. We were doing the elevator in his apartment building, and we had to run the lighting by him, and he gave us tips on how to make women look beautiful in an elevator.
Yeah.
And he completely supports your point of view.
I love that. Okay, so Alexa's first tip, like, don't forget about the lighting. You got to install beautiful and lots of different kind of lighting. All right, Andrew, your first tip is, and I love this, you're starting at the top.
Yes.
Always check the attic.
Right, and that's not a metaphor, that's literal. So back in 2001, when business was really quiet, we had a call from a woman in LA to come out and look at her new house, and met her at her property. She purchased it. Very elegantly dressed person, looked very, sort of capable to spend lots of money renovating this, beautiful house from the 20s. The house had been built for a famous movie star. It had been lived by, I think, Fanny Brice and Alan Ladd and Jerry Ross, and the wall-to-wall carpeting in the library still smelled like bong water. That's what everyone said. So we hear about the plans to renovate the house, and they include replacing the slate roof, which is in bad condition. We go to check the attic and find the whole house has been framed with 2x4s.
Wow.
So that's not so uncommon in Hollywood, where these houses were built like movie sets. They really were built. So, but people think differently today, and earthquakes happen, and they're about to spend a lot of money on this house. So, unfortunately, a lot of the house had to be taken down. It was rebuilt in a beautiful way. It took 2 to 3 years longer than everybody expected. It cost about $7 million more than people expected. Almost ended in a divorce, but they were very happy in the long run. However, I wish we checked the attic on day one.
Yeah, I love, there's like an image that there's just the lone staircase and it says save.
That was the staircase that Fanny Brice used to come down to her parties. That was the grand entrance, right?
Wow. Well, at least you were able to keep the grand entrance, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yes. Okay, thank you. That's a fantastic story. Okay, Alexa, next is plan for the worst And don't forget insurance. Now, I always say we're very positive, designers are very positive, but this is a very important tip.
Yeah, insurance is no joke. And it's a grim thing, but you need it. Prepare for the worst and don't forget insurance. That came from a project in New Orleans that got clobbered by Hurricane Katrina, but it had this very silver lining ending that ended in a Botticelli.
Wow. You said they found one?
Well, no, they had it and they thought it was studio of.
Right.
And post Katrina, we had to clean everything and we sent that to the Met to be cleaned, whereupon they discovered that it was an actual Botticelli. Though that might not be the best story for insurance, because that was the one bad thing that my client said to me later was, crap, my insurance just went up. I think Andrew and I could probably turn your head with crazy stories of things that have, like horrendous things that have happened on job sites. But it's part of being a professional. Right. If you're going to be a professional, you have to approach your workplace professionally. You need to have insurance, you need to understand payroll taxes, like you've got to get to the nitty-gritty of business if you're going to do it as a business. And I know a lot of times we let ourselves off the hook by saying, oh, we're creative people. We just can't afford not to pay attention to those things. Right. And something I just found out recently was that, and I'm happy, I don't know this from my own experience, knock on wood, but I heard that if you get our industry insurance, you don't have to pay for your legal bills.
Wow.
I didn't know that.
So that could be wrong, but I mean, that could be more specific than that. There could be cases in which that's not the case, but there are cases in which that is the case. So there's just no reason not to do it.
Yeah. And as you said, there's things that you don't want to do. And you have to be very aware as a designer, once you have a firm, what you're not good at and have somebody else do it. When the minute you can hire someone.
But you can't completely divorce yourself from it.
Yes, that's true.
You've got to at least be slightly aware of those things.
That's true. The tough stuff is part of it all, right?
Right.
Yeah.
It's the least fun thing to spend money on, but absolutely necessary.
Exactly. So don't forget your insurance, everyone. All right. So something I wish I knew before I started my career, sometimes you have to stick with what you're given.
So a number of years ago, my colleagues Stephen Chrisman and Oscar Shamamian met with a client who's purchased a really cool old house. However, the house was larger than it could be rebuilt. It was in very poor condition. It was really close to the ocean, like close in a good way, in a way that you'd never be able to build it today. 21st century people have a lot more possessions than 19th century people did. We have mechanical systems, electronics, needs for storage to keep our children out of trouble, all sorts of things that people in 1890 didn't have. So we needed to stick with that house because we couldn't have rebuilt it in the same way. So we spent a bunch of money to pick the house up, constructed a full basement underneath it, and put it back down again. The house was was beloved in the neighborhood because it was so original. It was also beloved by the number of wildlife that was living in the house at the time the owners purchased it.
Oh no!
But we had a lot of scrutiny. The neighbors were watching all this to make sure that we took good care of it and put it back the way it needed to be put back. The house had a lot of quirky features. They had beautiful odd doors. We moved the doors around to create lovely enfilades to bring the light through. And we replicated as many things as we could to keep the old charm. But it was a case where you really needed to make do. You could not have replaced that house.
Yeah, and you did. And I mean, that's also a very good message about, like, even though it's not exactly what you had expected, you saved what you could, and it was still present. Like the essence of that house was still present. It
was. And I think, sometimes things that are, not necessarily what you'd have done, but are quirky and authentic feel good. And you just have to kind of trust that and stick with it.
Alexa, your next thing you wish you knew was to tell somebody to remember to play with scale.
Yes. And I think this is a great thing to talk about with students who are coming into the workforce. They, when you have things that are they're not totally homogenous, but when you're working in CAD and you're working with templates. I mean, there's a scale that applies to them. But really well done houses have modern scale, which is made for the 21st century ass. It's got antiques, which are not made for the 21st century ass. I mean, they're all different sizes of things, all different shapes, and the best rooms flirt with all of them.
Beautiful, right? And it's something you'll learn. It's almost a constant thing you're always learning, right? With scale, but it's so important. Thank you for sharing that, by the way. Andrew, your next one is, and this is, if people didn't think this is an emotional, you know, an emotional design being emotional, it really is. You say sometimes you're not just an architect. Remember, you're also a therapist.
I know that's a cliche.
Yeah.
And this is sort of a good version of this. So a number of years ago, we had a client. It was his third project. Now, the first was with his first wife. The second was with him as a new bachelor. And the third was with his second wife. This gentleman is as businesslike and conservative and staid as his closet of blue shirts and blue suits will suggest. His new wife was absolutely lovely and vivacious and colorful as the clothing in her closet. And this was a new apartment for them. They're moving in together. So somehow we had to make this apartment work for both of them. We were working with Haynes Roberts on this challenge, who we really collaborated in a great way to fill both needs. And I think we'll show you some pictures of their living room and dining room, which essentially became essays in sort of neutral backgrounds. And we incorporated some things like polished metal and polished wood, which was a nod to him. And it allowed the neutral backgrounds to be a great foil for the very colorful furniture and art, which was really there for her. There's one room in particular that I think really brought them together, and that was the library, which is often, you know, in these 1920s apartments, that was often the gentleman's room. In this case, it's very much both the rooms. They chose a color of aubergine that was just brown enough that it would be read as not purple, that a man could be very happy sitting in. They chose a Benetti table that looked like jewelry that the lady might own. And they chose some beautiful pony skin that brought it all back down to earth. And then last, a fireplace, and I don't know where they found this, but probably the only Georgian fireplace I've ever seen that had bright purple veining.
Wow. Wow. And was that like a puzzle that was a constant in this project that sometimes you have a harder time dealing with than other times not?
In this case, it was delightful because they were in love and really wanted to, you know, sort of work on this.
Yeah.
But it was a challenge because they came in with very different ideas, and we really had to. It was a fun challenge to make it work for both of them.
Yeah, Alexa, you must have that as well, right?
All the time.
Yeah.
That I experience the same thing, but your obvious thing is to negotiate from the one part of the couple, if it's a couple, to the other person in the couple. Something that I sometimes forget is that we're also negotiating on behalf of the person to the person.
Right.
Like, I will go into many houses, and I guess this is just like latent chauvinism on all of our parts. But many women will say, oh, I want this to be my office, and they'll show me like a closet. And the man says, oh, I'm going to take the library. And this happens even in 30,000 square foot houses. And I have to look at the wife and say, you need a bigger office. If you're going to spend any amount of time, like, look at the house you're building. We can find you a space and give you a great office too. You deserve it. And so in that way, we have to be therapists to the person, about the person.
Right.
Like, you're allowed to want these things for yourself.
Yeah, yeah. And don't you think, you guys, right now, because what you work on is so personal with everything that's happening with COVID, how much more do you have to be supportive and a therapist and, you know, that kind of deep connection with your clients right now?
We've made some changes in projects midstream, you know, in this last year. We've turned some bedrooms into offices.
Right.
You know, we've sped up construction projects to get people into some place so they don't have to be cramped in their, you know, New York apartment with their whole family. You know.
Right. Right.
But I think the sometimes flowery way we may speak about a project is now much more understandable to the client post-COVID, because they understand the emotions that we might have always imputed to a certain room. Now they get it much more.
Right. I agree. And because also they're using the house more, right?
Yeah. But they understand that it must convey comfort, that you must feel sheltered, that you must feel safe, that, you shouldn't, for those reasons, you shouldn't put a pocket door in front of a bathroom. I mean, there are all kinds of things that the choices you make that are for your sensibilities, for your experience of the house, not just to make the house sound and beautiful.
And in a weird way, don't you think? Because look, you have clients that have very, very big homes, and now they're living in the homes. They're actually living in all the rooms
Yes.
that you've designed. That is a different experience. It must feel very satisfying.
I think a lot of the moves that you took for granted before that, now you really appreciate. Some people are ambivalent about a dining room. They think, they eat in the kitchen, right? They grab food when they need to. And now I think having a room that's dedicated to something that's a little bit ceremonial now feels really lovely.
Yeah.
And
so I think
it forces you to stop working.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. No, well, good on you guys. I know your clients are asking for more things and functional things too, which is interesting. All right. So Alexa, your next tip is don't install boring window treatments. You got to layer it.
This is also about like when you get into design, right? So though that alone has a hard definition, getting into design, but still, I was raised in a designer atmosphere, obviously.
Yeah.
And I became very aware of what was what when I was working for my father from 13 on, like a month in the summer. And, that was in the late 80s. And then wow, yeah. Fringe and this and that, everything was, gilding the lily. So when my father died in 97 and I took over, I had like a whiplash knee-jerk response where I just didn't want to use trim anymore. I wanted to use tapes, but I didn't want to use cord-on tape. I didn't want fringe. So I needed to go through that period to now be able to say to you, that sucks. I had to get it out. I needed to level the playing field with all of this gussiness that I've been dealing with. Yeah. I needed to go clean and lie fallow for a while. And now I can come to it with what I feel is a more rounded view. That your windows do a lot for you. You need the curtains to add warmth. You need a shade to cut glare. You definitely need blackout if you're going to go to sleep. The blackout shades that I came out with last year, I thought we all need, instead of huge swaths of white plastic, why are our plastic blackout shades? Why don't they have a cute little pattern on them? We've been doing this for 100 years. Why don't we have that? So those, I think, windows are a wonderful moment. They're an elevation. You look at them because of the light. They're a place to really go for it.
Yeah. Well, first of all, give yourself a pitch on the window curtains, because they won Best of Year, right? What's the name?
They did. So it was for the Shade Store, and I have a healthy licensing life, but it always starts with me having some crazy notion and picking up the phone and calling. So I had this gentleman's card from speaking in Texas once, and I had said to myself, when I have a really good idea, I'm going to call him. And so my idea was, how can I be working on these houses where the people spend millions of dollars building it and decorating it, and for their Lutron systems or their whatever, and you have this incredibly complex window program, and down comes a 12-foot by 9-foot white piece of white plastic facing the owners when they're in the bedroom. That is absolutely not appropriate.
Right.
It has to be better than that.
Right. Well, congrats on that. By the way, I do want to give you a big shout out for students out there, anyone who's listening. So Alexa was referring to her father, Mark Hampton, who is really, one of the top American designers in our field. And for you to, it's been over 20 years now of carving out your own path, having a hero for a father and somebody I know you were loved and was so close to, but finding your own path, really it's a big testament to you, Alexa. So I just want to give you kudos on that. And you figured out the wall. You figured out
I figured that out. I figured out the flush mount, and I've got some other ideas that I hope, like if those are things that I can use and be like, wow, that changed my life.
Yes.
Wow, what a thing to think.
Yeah, love that. Love that. Okay, so we have a few more tips. Andrew, yours is a big general, which I think is important for others to listen to. Don't lose sight of the end goal, even when you're keeping your client happy, because that's very hard to balance that, right?
It is, making someone happy. Before I move on to that, I'm going to tell Lexa, your father was the first person I worked with when I joined Ferguson Chumami in '96.
On Burden?
Yes, Jan. In a beautiful house in Bedford. And one of my first experiences was meeting Oscar at 8 in the morning, taking a cab up to his office where he was attired in the most beautiful suit with his Waterman pen, taking notes. It was, I felt like, it just felt like the quintessential New York experience, dream come true. It was so nice working with him.
Thank you. I love hearing that.
It's beautiful. Beautiful.
So but being a leader, I think, being a good designer and listening to your client, but also being a leader. So sometime much later than when I worked with your father, I was quite mature and I was booed by Jacques Grange at a client meeting. This had been a 3-year design process with clients who were very interested in exploring every aspect of the design, and the design changed this way and that way a million times. This meeting was to wrap up the whole process, and we had samples of everything that had been selected. Because everything had been so fluid, I showed the door hardware with photographs rather than actual samples. And Jacques stood up and booed me for not taking the process seriously enough. So
okay. Okay, that's an addressable boo. I didn't know the extent of the boo, and my heart stopped. That's an acceptable boo.
Yeah.
And it really made me realize that you have to take all of this very seriously and be a really good leader for your clients and recognize the commitments that they make as real commitments. So I carry that story with me as a sort of memory of how to always sort of push yourself to become, a good guide through this process. So years after that, we were working for a repeat client on a project in Florida. And years earlier, when we did their first project in Martha's Vineyard, we were too good listeners and not good enough guides. And we let them lead a design that ultimately we realized was never going to be passed by the historic review board. So rather than waste their time, we had to go to them and say, we need to redo this, and we're gonna do this at our own expense, and we're gonna redesign your house a bit in a way that passes. And we were rewarded for this by getting approval on the first go, which is really important in Martha's Vineyard.
Right.
Fast forward to about 10 years later, they're building a house in Florida where there are no restrictions whatsoever. And this time they want to have fun. We forgot all of the lessons we should have learned in Martha's Vineyard, and we went through 21 schemes of schematic design, all kind of allowing themselves to have fun with that process. But at some point, we remembered Martha's Vineyard and we said, we got to put the brakes on this, because at some point they're going to get fed up. And we chose one of the schemes that we knew they'd like, that we knew intuitively was going to work for us for them. And we brought it to them and said, we've got to stop this and start building your house.
Yeah.
And they listened and said, you're right. And it kept our fees in check. It kept their project somewhat on schedule. And it got the thing built, and they love it. So I think it's something I do also remember, that you have to be, you're a professional that is being hired. Now, we do things, Alexa and I both do things that are very custom. They're highly personal, but at the same time, you have to be a guide.
Yeah, no, it's good advice. And it's something you always have to also tell yourself as you keep going, right? Sometimes you forget that, and you let them take you on all these different journeys.
Yes.
Okay, so Alexa, you start and end with, you've got the crane now. So we're back to the crane. So be prepared for a crane or at least a sofa doctor.
Yeah. So there are two companies in New York. One is called Sofa Doctor and the other one is called Dr. Sofa. And there are times in every New York designer's life where no matter how many times you've measured that doorway with your movers, the sofa for some, or the whatever, doesn't fit in the door. And these are terrifying, really scary moments. And you have to be nimble. You know, you got to problem solve. And sometimes that means chopping the sofa. Please, please don't do it in front of the client. Do it, get it in, you know, never have the homeowner around when you're installing. In any case, it's just going to give them an ulcer. But as you can see, it's almost like a Magritte. We're moving a bush in the south of France and it's dangling above a reflecting pool. But yeah, cranes are often part of it too. You know, you have a crane going up to the 10th floor of a building to bring in a piano. Some crazy things can happen, like you need a crane, you need a sofa doctor, which just goes back to telling you that there's a huge logistical element to everything we do, and there is rational reason for things. And when you can describe and discuss with the homeowner what the rational reason is behind something, they totally get it.
Yeah. Yeah, and this sort of ends it on a really interesting note, because you were talking about scale being big. And Andrew, your last tip was measure the chargers and the toilet paper before designing the cabinetry. So it's, you know, also it's big,
macro
but it's all in the details. Yeah.
Yes, background full circle. So there's a classic FNS, a story at FNS that gets told to almost every new hire, where we had to tear out an entire kitchen that had just been built for a very important and very impatient man in finance, because we had not measured their buffet chargers. They're overly large, oversized buffet chargers. And not only the upper cabinets had to be rebuilt to accommodate those, but the lower ones as well, because you need 12 inches between the face of an upper and the face of a lower, you bang your head. So that story gets told to everybody, you know, at some point. Fast forward years later, and we're doing a beautiful and sort of minimalist stone bathroom, which wants no hardware whatsoever. So we're doing custom stone toilet paper recessed niches. And the project architect, who's very smart and very diligent, you know, measures rolls of toilet paper and sends out company user emails to find out the right size of a roll. We have the stone toilet paper niches made, go to install the house, and sure enough find that the toilet paper that this client uses is too big, and that they buy a luxury oversized brand that is only available through Costco. But they are committed to that toilet paper and they're not going to give up. So we have to beg the contractor, who is lovely group of people, to very carefully chisel out those toilet paper niches and reinstall them 1/2 inch larger.
I love that we're ending on, you know, what do they say? God in design is all about the detail. But as you can all see, like, it's also, design is all about problem solving. Every single tip is almost like a problem solving equation. So first of all, I think we should have a round two. I don't know, I'm just saying, because you guys are amazing. I want to thank both of you dearly, and also NYSID, New York School of Interior Design. Like, thank you for allowing us to have this conversation. This is important and meaningful for our community and for younger designers as they're coming into the profession. There's a little bit of information on NYSID. So they have rolling admissions and they're currently accepting applications. So you can request information and start your application at NYSID, NYSID.edu. And if you're not sure what program is right for you, they'll have somebody who'll talk to you. They have counselors. They're amazing. They'll help you. Because I know you all love design. You're trying to figure it out. They will help you. So if you want to learn anything else about any kind of continuing and professional studies, NYSID.edu, and then there's a /ICPS. That's for continuing ed courses. I think I got it right. But first of all, we love you guys. Thanks for everything you do in our industry about moving our industry forward. We're going to get past everything we're going through right now, and we see you as leaders, and we really thank you so much.
Right back at you.
Oh, yes, thank you so much.
Right back at you.